2024 is a new year, and you know what? I hate looking back at the old year. So you know what? Let's look forward at the new year.
Yeah, 2023 was a crazy year for true crime fans, but we are going to be looking forward to new developments in some court cases for 2024.
So here we go, the top 10 cases to watch in 2024.
2024 is going to be loaded with new case updates. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
In this episode of About the Law, we are going to be looking at 10 cases that you need to keep your eyes peeled on with some new upcoming developments.
You know what? The funny thing is that if you watch legacy media, in the beginning of the year, they always look back. It's like, oh, this is what happened in the last year. So-and-so died and this awful thing happened. And it's like, you know what? My attitude is you can't do anything about what happened in the last year. I don't want to look back. I'm going to look forward. So what we did is we took a list of 10 cases in which there will be developments in the coming year. And it was hard to pare it down to 10 cases. But here we are. Lainey, why don't you start?
Yeah, and our number 10 might actually have all of our regular viewers with their jaws to the ground that this could possibly be number 10 and that there's 9 more ahead of this. But for our number 10, we have the Kohberger Idaho 4 case. Will the trial go in the summer of 2024 as requested by the prosecution? If not, then when? There has been so much secrecy surrounding the case of the Idaho 4 with a gag order from the court and most court records sealed. Whether the trial goes forward or not, watch for chinks in the armor, the major blockbuster details to come out. After 10 rounds of discovery, will there be more? What else could they shroud this case in why else would they shroud this case in massive secrecy?
I will guess the answer to the first question, and that is, I bet the trial will not go in the summer of 24. I'll bet you a whole quarter. No, I'll bet you a cup of coffee. It will not go in the summer because, there's just too much. There's too much secrecy. The defense has filed some motions to possibly take the fact that their motion to dismiss was not allowed to an interlocutory appeal. And, if all of that happens, even if it doesn't happen, my bet is we will not see a trial, and I'll bet you a cup of coffee in 2024. So that takes us to number 9, the Delphi case, the mysterious deaths of Libby German and Abigail Williams. The Indiana Supreme Court in January of 2024 will hear arguments in the petition of defense attorneys Andrew Baldwin and Bradley Rossi to be reinstated as defense attorneys for Richard Allen, the accused in the case. 2023, of course, brought ultimate chaos to this case with the allegations that a cult called Odinism performed a sacrificial killing. Judge Francis Gull kicked the attorneys out of the case, appointed new ones, and set a trial date in October of 2024, this coming year. No doubt this case will generate fireworks. Poor Libby and Abby. Their families, I really feel for them. These 2 young girls have been gone since 2017.
Yeah, I definitely, for anybody who isn't aware, I know a lot of the people watching our videos are more familiar with the Kohberger case, and that's where a lot of our audience comes from. But thank you, everybody who goes back and checks our Delphi videos. So, we have a lot of videos on a lot of these cases. So if you're interested in hearing more information, go look at that one. I mean, it was a really sad and horrible case, and I do hope we get good updates this year, process. Now for number 8, we have Harmony Montgomery. Jury selection is scheduled to begin on February 6, 2024 in Manchester, New Hampshire, in the trial of Adam Montgomery, facing second-degree murder charges in the death of his daughter, Harmony Montgomery. Little Harmony has never been seen since around October 2019, when she was 5 years old, yet a missing persons investigation was only launched in December 2021. A Massachusetts family court judge granted custody of young Harmony to her father, Adam Montgomery, despite criminal history and alleged drug use. Manchester, New Hampshire police at one point conducted a search of a property where the Montgomerys lived, at one point removing a refrigerator as evidence from the premises. And like I mentioned before, we do have a video on Harmony's case as well for those who are interested in watching that.
Yeah, such a sad case of Harmony Montgomery. I mean, how could a young girl like that be missing for over a year and a half before anybody starts to search for her? And just such a sad case. So without dwelling on that one, we go to number 7. And that is Ruby Frankie, the self-appointed family and child care expert. Ruby Frankie will be sentenced in a Utah court on February 20th of 2024 to charges she not only failed as a child care advocate, but actually committed horrible acts on 2 of her own young children. Ruby Frankie signed a plea document pleading guilty to 4 counts of conduct, but in an unusual arrangement, there was no agreed upon sentence. Frankie did agree that her sentences on the 4 counts would be served consecutively, so she could be sentenced to anywhere between 4 and 60 years. That's quite a range, huh? We took a deep dive into the court documents and the details of Ruby's plea in a previous episode.
That one was, if you don't know the details about that, look into it because, oh my God, unbelievable. Now we have for number 6, we have Karen Reed, and this one is actually taking the community by storm in Massachusetts. So mild-mannered college professor and financial analyst Karen Reed is scheduled to go on trial March 12th, 2024 on second-degree murder charges in the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Reed was initially charged with drunk driving and vehicular manslaughter. The first charges were that she backed into O'Keefe after a night of drinking and dropping him off at a party in Canton, Massachusetts on January 29th, 2022. But when prosecutors increased the charges to second-degree murder, Reed amped up the defense. She called in a famous Los Angeles defense attorney. She also became the hero of a blogger calling himself Turtle Boy, who claims that she was framed, that O'Keefe was beaten by others at the house where he was dropped off and left to die in the blizzard. This 2024 trial will pose the question of Karen Reed and what she did to a Massachusetts jury.
This is just such a crazy case. At first, it seemed kind of simple. At first, it seemed like, well, maybe, she had been out, both of them, Karen Reed and John O'Keefe had been out having a few, as they say, the night before. It was a very cold New England night. Then he wanted to go to his friend's house for a party. She had, I think, 6 drinks plus some shots before they went to the second bar. We don't know how much they had at the second bar. So surprise, surprise, she was having stomach issues. And so she dropped John off at his friend's house. And when he was found deceased the next morning, most people thought, well, she was drunk and she backed into him allegedly. And so the initial charges were related to an OUI homicide. But then when they amped it up, the case went crazy, and Turtle Boy has blogged and blogged and blogged. And I've never seen such a crazy case. I've been practicing law for many, many, many years, more than I really want to admit. And it's just probably one of the craziest cases I've seen. So that brings us to number 5. Speaking of just awful cases, Chad Dorman. The trial is scheduled July 8th, 2024, in the case of this Ohio man who had 3 young sons. They were 7 years old, 4 years old, and 3 years old. He came home one day in June of 2023 and rained terror over the house. His stepdaughter got away. Maybe that's why I said there were 4 kids. The stepdaughter got away physically unscathed, but the wife was shot in the hand trying to stop him, allegedly. But the 3 boys were no more. Chad Dorman was sitting next to his firearm on the front steps when the police SWAT team showed up, and he admitted that he did it. Nonetheless, he pleaded not guilty, and the trial is scheduled for summer of 2024. A neighbor told reporters that Dorman was an angry man and that he yelled at his wife and kids pretty much every day. What a case.
Nightmare fuel right there. It's such a scary thing to consider, especially, unfortunately, I think a lot of people have experienced being around people who are yelling and angry and quite frequently. So it's scary to see how it escalates. This next one is going to make your skin crawl if your skin has not already been crawling hearing about these crazy cases. No 2024 trial date is scheduled for the Brian Walshe case, coming in and as number 4. So as we do this podcast, no date, but that is very likely because there is a January 23rd, 2024 court status hearing. Both prosecutors and defense attorneys are expected to report their progress in discovery, the process by which both sides exchange information in this case. Wife, 34-year-old Anna Walshe, disappeared from the couple's Cohasset, Massachusetts home on New Year's Day 2023. Prosecutors say Brian Walshe went on the computer and made the following searches.
Yikes.
How long before a body starts to smell? How to stop a body from decomposing? 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. Can you be charged with murder without a body?
And that's only a few of them. There were a lot. There were like over a dozen, maybe 20 different searches. Oh, good grief. That's enough.
Yeah. 10 trash bags of evidence are found at a garbage collection station containing apparent bloodstains, a hacksaw, hatchet, towels, rags, gloves, a heavily stained rug, and a Tyvek suit, a near total body covering often used to protect from contaminants or hazardous materials.
You know, I've got to say something about that case, and that is people often say, oh, well, it's only a circumstantial evidence case. You know, circumstantial evidence is evidence. And judges will read a jury instruction in every case of this nature that, you know, it's rare that there's direct evidence of you see the person, you know, committing the act. Circumstantial evidence can be extremely strong in many, many, many murder and other cases. Circumstantial evidence is all there is. And I would contend in law schools in the future, and everybody's entitled to a presumption of innocence. Yes, that's true. But if in this case there is a conviction, this will go in the evidence textbooks, not the criminal textbooks, the evidence law textbooks for circumstantial evidence.
Horrible.
Enough said. Before we go on to number 3, another awful case out of the Massachusetts courts. The criminal court sessions will be very busy in early 2024. This sad case is scheduled for a hearing in January. 32-year-old Lindsay Clancy had been a nurse at Mass General Hospital. On January 24th, 2023, she sent her husband Patrick out for takeout dinner. When he returned to their Duxbury, Massachusetts home, 3 children aged 5, 3, and 8 months were dead, strangled in the basement. Lindsay had jumped out a window and was laying in the yard. Lindsay had been under treatment for severe postpartum depression. Patrick had been working from home in support of her condition. Lindsay Clancy goes into the new year in a state mental hospital in Tewksbury, Massachusetts, and is represented by noted criminal defense attorney Kevin Reddington.
Over here for number 2, we have the Chad Daybell case. Chad Daybell is scheduled for trial in Idaho starting April 1st, 2024. In a previous episode, we looked at cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell. Chad Daybell pleaded not guilty in the deaths of Lori's 2 children, 7-year-old Joshua J.J. Vallow and 16-year-old Tylee Ryan. In this trial, he also faces murder charges in the death of his first wife, Tammy Daybell. Chad Daybell, a self-proclaimed religious leader in a movement more like a cult, pleaded not guilty, but at the same time, the bodies of young JJ and Tylee were found buried in Chad Daybell's backyard. In late 2023, the court denied Daybell's motion to take the death penalty off the table.
There is another circumstantial evidence case. We talked about this in a previous episode in which, we talked about Lori Vallow, who has been convicted. There's just so much more about this case, but we're just doing headlines going into the new year. And of note is the fact that his trial is coming up on April Fool's Day. In any event, what is the number one case for us to look at in the year 2024? There it is, JonBenet Ramsey. Why are we looking at JonBenet Ramsey, who has been missing, who died in 1996? Well, there's a reason. New hope exists in the investigation into the case of JonBenet Ramsey. It was the day after Christmas in 1996 that young JonBenet was reported missing. The next day, her body was found in the basement of her home. Why is there hope for resolution? Well, it took a while, but a slew of detectives were actually disciplined for mishandling multiple cases, including several who were fired. New leadership at the top of the Boulder, Colorado Police Department was quoted late in 23, indicating they are putting new emphasis on cracking the JonBenet Ramsey case. But it is no longer up to those locals in Colorado. A new task force reopening this case consists of the FBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, the District Attorney's Office, the Colorado Department of Public Safety, and Colorado's Bureau of Investigation. Also, topping the list is the fact that recent new DNA testing just before the holiday in 2023, there were apparently 5 pieces of previously unexamined evidence, which to me, Lainey Law is just unbelievable that all these years have gone by. I mean, back in 1996, DNA evidence was just coming of its own, but the fact that it just sat there for so long is just, it's mind-boggling. So those are some of the cases to look for in 2024.
Yeah, and with the JonBenet Ramsey case, it's even crazier to think about. It's almost been like, it's creeping up on 30 years, and we're just now re-examining this evidence. And I think for, a lot of people, I hope watching this, that kind of makes you feel a little bit relieved for all these unsolved cases that we have that, maybe technological advancements decades later or going back and re-examining some things can.
Well, I wonder if it was technological failures or failures of the structure of, the human organizations that are responsible for investigating crimes and prosecuting crimes. I mean, any human organization is going to have problems. Anyone who's worked for a large organization knows that, and the organization can be as weak as the weakest person. But to think that, there were detectives on the case that have now been disciplined for looking the other way on cases or not pursuing cases carefully enough, I mean, it's just something that makes you shake your head at the very least, to think that, a failing in a human organization can be responsible. Because I remember this case, and I remember the family and others, questioning, are the police really doing enough? And that's a common thread in all of these cases, the Murdoch case, the Kohberger case, and others, is law enforcement doing enough? Do we really have the best and the brightest taking a look at these cases? And it seems that now, 27 years later, that only now are people, actually in the last couple of years, are people really, taking note of the fact that, the organization was not operating optimally. So anyhow, do you want to end this episode with our new feature of reading our comments?
Sure. Let's go take a look at the comments. Andrew, did you want to start off with the comment?
Okay, so we do have some good comments that we're getting. Most of them here are on the Bryan Kohberger case. So I'm going to start with Junie Parab. Junie says, cartel. A call was made after Maddie told Adam everything. You heard her voice. This is at the food truck. Scared when Jack S. asked her what she told Adam. They are going to get you for that. Adam called the cartel. Jack S. knows. Only a strong-armed bunch of thugs would go into a house of 5 to create mayhem and revenge on the kids. They were well armed and would have killed anybody in sight. They lured Bryan over to the house to frame him and planted the sheath. They threatened Bryan, Bethany, and Dylan with death to their families if they said anything. Not sure if Kopaka was involved or not. Well, I mean, that's a clever bunch of stuff to put together. If corroborated, it would be interesting. It certainly would explain why Bethany is less than a willing participant in wanting to testify. But, again, folks, we are not vouching for the veracity of any of these. We're just reading the comments that we get, and I thank everybody for commenting.
Yeah, thank everybody who leaves comment. And like he said, it's not one way or the other. We're not, biased or leaning towards anything. We're just letting you know what other people are saying because our comments are so awesome. Just the fact that you guys take the time to write them. Well, now we have Helmua. Why can't they turn the house into a classroom for criminal justice so future law enforcement et al. Can learn from this and respect its history and legacy?
At first, I thought that was an interesting comment. I still think it's an interesting comment, but I think the problem is that, the University of Idaho is only so big and it has a campus, and this is a little ways off campus. And from looking at the little bit of video that I've looked at, it's you have to walk quite a distance, but also there are hills that go up and down. So I don't know, not a good idea. The next comment comes from Janet Karen, and she agrees that the house needs to stay up until justice is served. This makes me sad that the university needs it gone. I imagine that house was gifted to the university so that they could ease the pain for the families. I have so much anger towards that university. Seemed to me the university only cares for their image and nothing else. The real families with their second Christmas and birthdays and every other, milestone that the families will need to go through. University of Idaho cares about themselves and not the students that are no longer there. We miss them so much. So that's, again, a sentiment that's out there.
Yeah, I definitely understand where Janet is coming from, where it kind of feel like, obviously there's a lot of layers and dynamics to this, but it does to a degree feel like it's kind of being swept under. All right, so now I have a comment from Stis. I don't know if BK did it. He's in shackles. Likely he knows something. I don't know what he did or knows. I find it telling that his lawyer says Bethany has exonerating evidence. If that's not true and he's lying, well, that dumb I'll believe she's likely knows something she hasn't stated. I thought the police stated the odor was powerful. And like we said before, we're not saying these comments are one way or the other. We're just reading comments. But it is interesting. I mean, like we mentioned, that's one of the, updates that we're looking forward to in the upcoming year to find out what's going on with that.
Some of these commenters really get into the case. Here's Colleen Fortrell. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Colleen, I really appreciate your program and that you look at all sides of the case, especially the legal end of it. I'm thinking that he might have done it, but law enforcement moved too quickly by arresting him right away. They were getting immense pressure by the families, the media, the university, and so on. All of that is true. They should have waited to interview Kohberger, get a warrant to collect his DNA, investigate. When Bill Thompson said this is just the beginning of the investigation, he wasn't kidding. At least I don't think he was. Either way, the jury will figure it out, I hope. Well, we all hope the jury will figure it out.
Mm-hmm. I have Hajarenatim. Sorry, I'm butchering this. Hajarenatimi bird. Maybe timid bird. I don't know if they're.
I have no idea how to pronounce that one. But thanks for the comment. Yeah, we'll try better next time.
Exactly. You can phonetically write it out for us if you want. Why the heck would Moscow Police Department have to rent a U-Haul to take the victim's stuff away? Don't they have vehicles for this? So weird. And, I guess that is a good point.
I kind of wondered that too, but
they must have some kind of van. We've seen police, like big police vans before. I mean, I don't know about Moscow specifically, but
yeah, it's a relatively small department, so it's possible that they don't. I know that the police department in my town where I live, they have a couple of pickup trucks, but I guess that wouldn't be enough. Our last comment today is from Tina B. She has 4 subscribers. Good job, Tina B. Her comment is this: the thing that gets me is the sounds that had to be going on in that house. You'll never make me believe that the screams coming from people that were being stabbed are the same as people who are in a fight or drunk. That's just not true. It's a primal response when you are fighting for your life, and it's a different kind of sound that comes out of your body. I've thought about that too, and I've seen commenters say, "No, you don't have any idea. You weren't there. You don't know. There may not have been any sounds at all because they were asleep and they were dead before they woke up. They never woke up, or so the commenters have disputed this, but I see where you're coming from on this one, Tina B. If DM, Dylan Mortensen, heard what she thought was Kaylee playing with the dog, or Maddie playing with her dog, why wouldn't she have heard these noises? And so that's a question that I've always had in the back of my mind. And I don't know, we don't know all the evidence. It's not out there, but I have to remind our viewers of two things. One is that the jury instructions in Idaho, and we've read them in a previous episode by popular demand, we may read them again, but one of the jury instructions is that if you have any reasonable doubt, you must find the defendant not guilty. Not that you can think about finding him not guilty, not that you can deliberate whether or not he's not guilty, but if you find any reasonable doubt, you must find the defendant guilty. So I don't know. I think that's reasonable doubt. Oh, and the other point I said I was going to make 2 points. The final point, I cheated. The final point wasn't really a point, but what is that building in the background? We want our viewers to tell us, what is that building in the background? No prize, but you know.
I mean, maybe your prize that will give you acknowledgement in the next video if you find out you did it first and you got it correctly.
So I don't know. It's just, what do you think? You think the trial will go forward in the next year?
You know, I want it to, but I don't think it will. I want details to come out, and I am looking forward, to learning more and seeing what happens with everything. But with the Kohberger case specifically, as much as I wanted to start developing in 2024, I don't think we're going to see anything till 25.
Yeah, I don't either, especially with the defense responding to the prosecution's motion for a scheduling conference, responding by filing another motion to re-raise the issue of the indictment. Looking back at what happened before and saying, oh, we're going to appeal that, or actually what they've said is they want to have that issue reconsidered, and if not, then we want an interlocutory appeal to the next court. That's how the year 2024 starts, with a lot of questions in the Kohberger case. And so, as I said before, I think that it's unlikely the case will go forward. But you never know, do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. For me personally, all of these cases, especially the ones local to us, Massachusetts and New Hampshire, I'm excited to learn about everything that happens. And I hope that if people have their eyes on any of cases that we didn't mention in this episode, please leave that in the comments, because I mean, everybody watching here, if you've made it this far, I'm sure you can agree that it's fascinating, and it is interesting to see how our court works and what type of evidence is going to be provided and what type of, just the updates and everything. It's interesting.
Yeah, my final comment is about the Delphi case. I mean, you talk about the Kohberger case because I asked you, but the Delphi case to me is just really something that makes me think and wonder, and sometimes stay up late at night, because, here's two girls that we just went out for a hike on a rail trail. By the way, just the other day I went out on the rail trail, one of our local rail trails, and took a nice long walk, and would like to think that I'm safe, and that other people that I know who like the rail trail, are safe. And they were just out on what was a local rail trail to them in Indiana. They disappeared, only to have the worst nightmare that can ever happen to parents, and find them deceased the next day. And here it is all of these years later. First of all, it took law enforcement a long time to peg a suspect, Richard Allen, who, by the way, had voluntarily given a statement just days after the crime. Took him a long time to bring charges against Mr. Allen. They finally brought charges against Mr. Allen, and now it's just been a nightmare. It's just been we did an episode on this, and even that episode, I think we spent about 45 minutes talking about the Delphi case, and even that didn't scratch the surfaces of all the things that can go wrong. And you just have to keep your mind on the fact that the case revolves around two young girls that had a horrible crime terminate their lives, and that's what the case is all about. Not wondering whether these attorneys should come or go, not whether the judge did her job, not whether but that's something that 2024 will start out with, is the Indiana Supreme Court holding a hearing, oral arguments on that issue, whether the two attorneys can be reinstated, whether Judge Gull needs to go. And then, who knows? Supreme Courts generally take time because they have to research and analyze and think and write a thoughtful decision. And often there is an opposing view. So who knows how long that'll take, and who knows whether that case will get on track even before October when that trial is scheduled in Indiana. So it makes you stop and think. As an attorney, you'd like to think the cases are straightforward and they go along a rail, from start to finish, and there's a process and a procedure like we all learned in civil procedure or criminal procedure in this case. But, so many of these cases don't go that way. So anyhow, those are my closing thoughts, and I would wish everybody a great new year. How about you, Lainey?
Yeah, on a similar note about the Delphi case, it is a crazy case. And like you mentioned, when you go on the rail trail, you want to imagine that you're safe. But even with that case right now, we are seeing a lot of issues with, speculation that, the police in the town maybe have some type of cult ties, and it's just a lot of really scary things. And definitely check out our past video on that if you want to learn more. But I definitely can empathize with that feeling of are you safe where you are, and feeling like you might be locked in by the community behind you, or not really knowing the people in your neighborhood. It's just a lot of scary thoughts. But we really do appreciate everybody who gives us inspiration in the comments, everybody who's so supportive in the comments. And like I mentioned, let us know if there's anything that we haven't covered today that you want to hear more about. And we're really grateful, and we look forward to seeing you guys in the new year.
Thank you very much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and thank you for being with us. Have a good one. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts, and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions.
And that's that.
No, and that's that.